There's a story going round now, put out by Johnny Mercer, about his Labour adversary, who is also claiming to have been in the military. I'll get back to that in a few minutes. But Johnny Mercer says that this person is a Walter Mitty type. Now, Walter Mitty is a wonderful film, and I'm thinking of the first film adaptation in 1947, an adaptation of a little book by James Thurber, first published in the New Yorker in 1939, and it's the story of a mild-mannered man who escapes his boring life through vivid daydreams, and then he becomes a hero in his own adventures. And the Danny Kaye film in 1947 is a vehicle for Danny Kaye's brilliant physical comedy. It's also got Boris Karloff in it. Boris Karloff, you tend to think of Boris Karloff as the monster in the Frankenstein films, but he was an extraordinary actor, British actor. And the film only had a modest success, but went on to receive this went on to develop into an amazing, iconic film, which established Danny Kaye's reputation as a versatile comic actor, and the film became a cult classic, particularly with the screenings on television. There was a 2013 sort of nondescript revival with Ben Stiller playing Walter Mitty, and Shirley MacLaine and Sean Penn, trying to modernize the original story, but it doesn't quite work, and it still aligns with the theme of the original Thurber story, but it expands slightly on Mitty's real world daydreams and adventures. It got mixed reviews, and the critics praised it for visual effects, but Ben Stiller's direction and performance, I think were a bit sort of lackluster. The idea of this daydreamer, and the idea that this word to be a Walter Mitty type describes somebody who has indulged in grandiose fantasies of personal triumph, and it's about escapism, and in some ways about the ambition to transform your dreams into reality. And both films highlight aspects of this theme, making Walter Mitty a very relatable and inspirational figure across the generations. And within that context, I think the concerns of Johnny Mercer are going to backfire.
That was one of the most unpleasant experiences in public life I've experienced. As soon as we got to questions, there were questions about Fred Thomas and his military service that he makes such a big deal out of. He said that he had served in combat, and he was challenged repeatedly about serving in combat, and it turns out he hasn't, and he's propagating a fraud on the people of Plymouth. Now, what you did in service is up to you, right? And people do extraordinary things and never get anything for it. The number one rule is don't lie about it.
Mercer said that my opponent lied throughout the hustings. He was challenged on his claim to have served in combat by an 11-tour veteran, and it didn't stand up. I cannot believe I'm standing against a real-life Walter Mitty in Plymouth. But the Mr. Thomas has given has done a little film on Twitter, and I'll play that now. And Thomas sounds significantly convincing.
I was shocked and disappointed by last night's hustings. Service should be above politics, and my service as a Royal Marines Commando is the privilege of a lifetime. No one should have to see firsthand the horror that war inflicts on a society. I have, and I can tell you, having lived and served in a war zone, that the daily threat to life is nothing to brag about. I left the Royal Marines recently, and in my last unit, I served on sensitive operations that I can't talk about. but that should not be an opportunity for political point scoring. Labour respects service, and our government would be a government of service. It would be my honour to serve Plymouth Moorview in Parliament like I served my nation before.
And Labour, the Labour system, John Healey, the Shadow Defence Secretary, says the commanding officer of the Special Forces Support Group wrote of Fred's integrity and character. Those words will not have been penned lightly, and Mr. Mercer should do the right thing and withdraw his deeply disrespectful remarks. And Labour points to the highly sensitive nature of Thomas's military service. But to turn this into a sort of political weapon is slightly shocking. Johnny Mercer is the is the experienced politician. Thomas is the inexperienced politician, and I think he's taken advantage of that lack of experience to play with the dark arts. And it's painful. It's painful to watch this. To watch the Conservative Party struggling with reality and with responsibility, and playing around with truth. I don't think that the report was deliberately misleading, and Johnny Mercer talked about Thomas and Carol Vorderman of leading shit lonely lives. What an extraordinary experience! What an extraordinary expression! Clearly he's taking his vocabulary from James Cleverly, but it's. I don't understand how somebody who is a minister for veterans can attack another veteran, whether he's entirely genuine or not. And there's no reason to doubt his genuine credentials. There should be an alliance between the two of them simply because of their shared experience. And this is another black mark, a black mark. And I expected more of